Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lahu wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. Amma ba'du fa'uzu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. قال الله تعالى في القرآن الحكيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم واستعينوا بالصبر والصلاة وإنها لكبيرة إلا على الخاشعين الذين يظنون أنهم ملاقو ربهم وأنهم إليه راجعون صدق الله العظيم. This verse, which I've recited, translates as follows: and seek assistance through patience and prayer. And this is hard, except for the humble ones who know that they will meet their Lord and that to him they will return. Chapter 2, verses 45 and 46. The month of Ramadan begins next Thursday on the 23rd of March. And we must not think only about the technicalities and formalities of fasting in Ramadan, but also its purposes. Fasting is a means of developing good qualities. And this patience, which is mentioned in the verse which I've just recited, or sabr, this is a quality which is developed and strengthened through fasting. Patience means that you persevere in a difficult condition voluntarily. Sometimes you have to persevere in a difficult condition because there's nothing else you can do. But patience is to persevere voluntarily, even though you could adopt unlawful or unethical or immoral means of getting out of that situation, but you restrict yourself to moral and lawful means only. And the patience of fasting is that we must wait till a certain time to satisfy our most essential physical needs and desires. And according to some scholars of the Holy Quran, the Quran is referring to fasting as patience in the passage which I have read above, because it says, and seek assistance through patience and prayer. And they say that the patience there is fasting, mentioned along with prayer. Thankfulness is another quality developed through fasting. It is only deprivation that can make us realize and value the blessings which we usually take for granted. Thankfulness for what we have got, thankfulness for what someone has given us, is a quality which is not only commended and stressed by Islam and other religions, but all human beings recognize its importance. In fact, it keeps you happy and free from anxiety and stress. Allah even says about himself in the Holy Quran that he is Shakir. Shakir means one who thanks others for doing good. And I'll just quote two references, the chapter 2, verse 158 and chapter 4, verse 147, as examples where Allah is called Shakir. And in these verses, Shakir is often translated as one who appreciates or who recognizes those who do good. Because you couldn't say that Allah thanks people in the same way as we thank others, that we are obliged to them. So they translate it as someone who appreciates, someone who gives extra reward. And in Hadith also, It is related in quite a well-known hadith that when a man gave water to drink to a thirsty dog, this was regarded as a good deed. And that hadith says, Allah thanked him for that deed. Fashakarallahu lahu. This is in Sahih Bukhari. The next quality I want to mention, developed through fasting, is that of charity and generosity. The thankfulness which I've just mentioned should not merely be confined to our feelings or our words. It must be manifested practically. And the deprivation of fasting should make us sympathize with the suffering of others and create in us the desire to alleviate their suffering. And there's a hadith which is recorded right at the beginning of Sahih Bukhari, which is as follows in translation. The Messenger of Allah, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, was the most generous of all people, and he was most generous in Ramadan when Jibril, or Gabriel as we say in English, met him, and he met him in every night of Ramadan and read with him. In other words, Jibril read with the Holy Prophet the Quran. So the Messenger of Allah was more generous in doing good than the wind which is sent forth on everyone. And this hadith shows that the quality of generosity was found in its utmost perfection in the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and his generosity extended to all without distinction, because it says here that he was generous like the wind. When the wind is sent on everyone, it doesn't distinguish between people in any way. The Holy Prophet never turned away anyone when someone came and asked him for something. Now, we may here note incidentally that when it says here that the Holy Prophet read the Quran with Jibril during every night of Ramadan, what that means is repeating the whole of the Quran that had been revealed up to that Ramadan in the life of the Holy Prophet. And there are other versions of this hadith in which it says that the Holy Prophet himself repeated the Quran in the presence of Jibril. That Jibril also read the Holy Quran, the angel Jibril, and the Holy Prophet, in some of these versions of the same hadith, it says that he repeated the Quran after him. And this hadith shows that the Holy Prophet did not have any written manuscript of the Quran to which he could compare what he knew by heart. This checking was done by the Holy Prophet with the angel Gabriel. And other people, other Muslims possessed written manuscripts or parts of the Quran, and there was never any difference of even a single word between them and what the Holy Prophet learned by heart, and which was regularly compared by him in Ramadan while reciting with the angel Gabriel. And we also find it in hadith reports that during the last Ramadan of the Holy Prophet's life, Jibril read the Quran with him twice, not once. It is also reported that in that last Ramadan of the Holy Prophet's life, he did this itikaf for 20 days, not 10 days. And this double recital of the Holy Quran in that last Ramadan of the Holy Prophet's life, it indicated to the Holy Prophet, and he took it as that sign, that this would be his last Ramadan on earth. So he told certain people, such as his daughter Fatima, about this. Going back to our main subject, it is because being charitable is one of the objects, one of the purposes of fasting, that those people who are unable to fast during Ramadan, and additionally they are unable to make up for the missed fasts after Ramadan, they are required by the Holy Quran to feed needy people in place of their fasting, which they would have done. And as the Holy Quran says, وَعَلَى الَّذِينَ يُطِيقُونَهُ فِدْيَةٌ طَعَامُ مِسْكِينٍ, and which translates as, and those who find it extremely hard may effect redemption by feeding a poor person. Chapter 2, verse 184. Another object of fasting stressed in the Holy Quran is to learn to refrain from usurping, taking illegally and or immorally, other people's rights and belongings. In fasting, we volunteer to give up even those things, that food and drink, which belongs to us quite rightfully, and it's quite legitimate for us in every way to make use of it, but we give it up voluntarily. So how can then we even think of taking what does not belong to us, but which belongs to someone else? And this is mentioned in the last verse in the Holy Quran, in the section on fasting. وَلَا تَأْكُلُوا أَمْوَالَكُمْ بَيْنَكُمْ بِالْبَاطِلِ وَتُدْلُوا بِهَا إِلَى الْحُكَّامِ لِتَأْكُلُوا فَرِيقًا مِّنْ أَمْوَالِ النَّاسِ بِالْإِثْمِ وَأَنْتُمْ تَعْلَمُونَ, which translates as, and do not swallow up your property among yourselves by false means, nor seek to gain access with it to the judges or to the authorities, you can say, so that you may swallow up a part of the property of other people wrongfully while you do it knowingly. Chapter 2, verse 188. Now, this swallowing up your property, it says, do not swallow up your property. Well, if it belongs to you, you can't really swallow it up illegally. But what it means is, by your property, the property placed in your charge, the property placed in your authority, which is meant to be used for the benefit of others. For example, the funds which the government has, the funds which a community has. That is your property, but you are meant to use it in a certain way for the benefit of people in general. And this, the words among yourselves, do not swallow up your property among yourselves by false means. This indicates people colluding with each other to usurp community or national property which is not rightfully theirs. It is still their property because it belongs to their nation or their community. But you got people colluding with each other. And these systems of bribery and corruption don't exist by some individual in isolation taking bribes. He's probably passing on the bribe he takes or a part of it to someone else and bribing them. It is a whole system. People are colluding and cooperating in it. So this verse, it goes on not only to prohibit this sort of bribery, but it also prohibits people from bribing the authorities in order to take what belongs to others and get the authorities to write down that, no, this belongs to me. And here we have to note with deep regret and great sadness that in Muslim countries, this particular command of the Holy Quran is violated so blatantly and widely and unashamedly that the outside world, especially the Western world, has come to think that bribery and corruption are a part of Muslim culture. And they think that Islam has nothing to say about these malpractices, that it's quite normal. And the verse which I've just read, it makes the teachings of Islam on this point very clear. And what we have to remember is that dealing honestly. These are human values, and whoever adheres to them, individually or collectively as a nation, they will benefit and they will be held in high regard by others, whether such people are or communities are Muslims or non-Muslims. Their honesty will benefit them and people will respect them. Now, moving on then, in fasting, we give up for a limited period of time the use of those things which belong to us and which we are fully entitled to use. And what this teaches us is that sometimes in this life, there is a higher purpose you want to achieve. And to do that, it is better to give up something that we are entitled to, we are fully entitled to. It might be better to give it up instead of insisting on having it 100%. And this sort of thing, this sort of compromise can help to establish peace between people and nations if everyone is not always insisting on and demanding to get their own rights. But now and then they give a little, they give up a little in a higher interest, not through cowardice or trying to please someone, but for a higher interest. Now, often in life, if you want to get what you're entitled to, what you're justifiably entitled to, you have to claim more than what you are entitled to, because you think, like in an insurance claim, that I'm entitled to this much, but if I claim this much, I might not get it. I might not get the whole of it. So if I claim a little more, then I will get what I should have got genuinely. But you see, that involves the use of falsehood. And fasting teaches us only to demand what is rightfully ours, even if it means having to settle for a little less. And this is the kind of lesson which fasting actually teaches us in practice. Now, the first verse commanding Muslims to fast is the following, which is familiar to people. Ya ayyuhallazina amanu kutiba alaykumus siyamu kama kutiba alal ladzina min qablikum la'allakum tattaqun. Meaning, all you who believe, fasting is prescribed for you. It is written for you, written down as a command. Kutiba is prescribed for you as it was prescribed for those before you, the nations before you, the religions before you, so that you may guard against evil. Chapter 2, verse 183. The first purpose of fasting is to enable us to develop and strengthen our powers of self-control. And this means, by developing those powers, that we become more able to resist wrongful desires and bad habits. And this is how you guard against evil. So in fasting, we refrain from the natural human urges to satisfy our appetite. When we do that, we're exercising, obviously, our ability of self-restraint. And the more you exercise any ability or skill, the more developed that ability in you becomes. And then that power of self-restraint developed through fasting, you then have to apply it. We all have to apply it in our normal daily lives to bring about self-improvement, even if it's a very small self-improvement. Now, looking for food, drink, and sex, these are the basic and most deeply ingrained instincts of an animal, including the human being who is an animal. All human beings are. So in fasting, what we are tested with is not, I don't want to offend anyone, but is not giving up chocolate for a while or meat for a while. What we are tested with is to show control in the face of the strongest possible inner urges, which are urges which are a part of our physical being. They are the strongest possible urges. That's what we are tested with. And fasting is therefore a reminder that real and true human life is something higher than satisfying physical desires. Because once we've died, then there is no more physical desire to satisfy. And we believe what we are left with is then the soul and how we've nurtured it, the condition of that soul as we've nurtured it by our actions during our life. So that true human life is attained by connecting the human soul with God. And there are two prongs to this: connecting the human soul with God and having sympathy for those who are in need and practically helping them. So this is all that religion has ever amounted to. And this is all what the basic teachings of Islam are: connecting the human soul with God and connecting us with our fellow beings by expressing sympathy for them and practically helping them. So may Allah enable us to strive hard to acquire these qualities, which is the purpose of fasting. And may Allah enable us to keep our fasts in their true sense and spirit, and make the coming month of Ramadan a means of us attaining nearness to Allah, increasing our knowledge and improving ourselves. So may Allah make it that kind of blessed Ramadan for us. Barakallahu lana wa lakum fil Quranil Azim. ونفعنا وإياكم بالآيات وذكر الحكيم إنه تعالى جواد كريم ملك رؤوف رحيم.